Good afternoon. I'm new to this live podcast, but I'm here today to talk some sports highlights. And today, looking at the NFLPA advises players not to work out due to coronavirus. The medical director for the NFL Players Association is advising players to avoid working out with teammates to prevent the spread of coronavirus. Dr. Tom Mayer said in a statement Saturday that the NFLPA is working on safety protocols for training camps, which are set to begin in late July. He says, quote, "Please be advised that it is our consensus medical opinion that in light of the increase in COVID-19 cases in certain states, that no player should be engaged in practicing together in private workouts," end quote, Mayer said in the statement. Our goal is to have all players and your families as healthy as possible in the coming months. A number of quarterbacks, including Buccaneers Tom Brady and the Giants Daniel Jones and the Jets Sam Darnold, have organized throwing workouts with teammates in recent past. On Saturday, sources told ESPN's Adam Schefter that at least two Buccaneer players have tested positive for COVID-19. Tampa Bay said in a statement that some team members have tested positive without identifying whether it was players or staff, and that affected areas were being closed for extensive sanitizing. The NFL and NFLPA are continuing to work to finalize protocols for players' safe return to team facilities for training camp next month. So there we have it. No group workouts. And in the situation with Tampa Bay, because they're not naming anyone, they're not identifying if it's a player or if it's a staff member, but someone has COVID-19. So, do you throw caution to the wind or do you play it safe? I guess in this situation, you almost have no choice but to play it safe, which means it will probably most likely call for more extensive testing throughout the NFL. And I wouldn't be surprised if they start signing waivers. Because let's just face it, some people are going to do what they want to do regardless of what the situation is. So now I think you have to start looking at each player signing waivers stating that this is now at your own risk. I mean, fans are pretty much going to have to sign those waivers too if they let fans come into the stadiums. Basically, fans are going to have to sign waivers, or if they purchase their tickets ahead of time, there's going to be waivers saying that we, the stadium, and event staff, whatever the case may be, will not be held liable. You enter at your own risk. And I'm pretty sure there will be safety measures, advising wear your mask, because this is not going away no time soon. So wear your mask, practice social distancing as much as you can, because this is the time in which we live in. Some people have no fear. So yes, it is risky, but at the same time, I do understand you have to think about there's others around you. You could either contract it from somebody or you could possibly spread it to somebody. So it's like now we are responsible for keeping those around us safe. So right now, that's what the NFL is and the NFLPA is looking at. No group practicing. Up next, Washington Redskins to retire number 49 of Bobby Mitchell, Hall of Famer and the team's first black player. The Washington Redskins will retire the number worn by Bobby Mitchell, the first African American player in their history who died earlier this year. The move, which a source said had been in the works for a while, comes one day after the statue of former Redskins owner George Preston Marshall, the last NFL owner to integrate his roster, was moved from outside of the team's former home. Mitchell's number 49 is only the second number to be retired by the Redskins in their 88-year history. Sammy Bond's number 33 had previously been the only retired number. In a statement, Redskins owner Dan Snyder said, "There is no one more deserving of these honors than the late Bobby Mitchell. Bobby was one of the most influential players not only in our team's history, but in the National Football League. He excelled on the field, in the front office, and most importantly, in this community where he had tremendous impact on the lives of so many through his charitable efforts. He was one of the greatest men I have ever known." Also, the Redskins renamed the lower bowl at FedEx Field in honor of Mitchell. It had been named after Marshall, who owned the franchise from the time of its inception in 1932 in Boston until his death in 1969. On Friday, Marshall's statue was taken down by Events DC, which controls the land at RFK Stadium. Marshall had resisted for years numerous overtures to integrate his roster, but in 1961 he was under pressure by Secretary of the Interior Stuart Udall to integrate or lose the lease to new DC Stadium, which was on federal land. To appease Udall, the Redskins acquired Mitchell in December of 1961 trade with the Cleveland Browns, sending them the rights to African-American running back Ernie Davis. Mitchell played 7 seasons for Washington and was voted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1983. So there we have some news on this short and brief podcast that I'm actually doing live. So I hope those of you who are out there listening are enjoying it thus far. Like I said, it's going to be a short one because there's a lot going on. There are some other things that we'll probably look at. Former Redskins owner statue removed at RFK Stadium. Redskins among teams to observe Juneteenth. Football Hall of Famer Bobby Mitchell dies at the age of 84, and that was earlier. More to that article, though, as we move on. It says, "It wasn't always easy for Mitchell, who died on April 5th. He often recalled hearing racial epithets hurled his way and said he was once spat upon at a local restaurant. However, Mitchell, while acknowledging the pain, overcame the vitriol and lasted 41 seasons with the franchise. He also became heavily involved with the National Leukemia Society as well as the Shaw Food Committee locally, among numerous other organizations. Mitchell was proud of what he accomplished in the NFL and wanted to be known for more than just breaking a color barrier in Washington. After his retirement, he told the Washington Post, "I have to live with people always talking about me as the first black player against all my exploits. I've always been very upset that people always start with that. I don't want to hear that, and yet I have to hear it constantly, and it overshadows everything I've done in the game." However, the status meant a lot to his teammates and many others. "Bobby was our Jackie Robinson," former Redskins safety Brig Owens said in the release. "He had to handle the pressure of being the first African-American football player to integrate the Washington Redskins. He, like Jackie, was a military officer headquartered in the D.C. area when he received notice of his trade. In the face of great adversity, he served as a role model for the Washington, D.C. community, the Redskins, its fan base, and the NFL. He was more than an exceptional football player and athlete. He was an exceptional human being. He was like a brother to me." Mitchell was a running back in 4 years with Cleveland, but switched to flanker in Washington. In 7 seasons with Washington, Mitchell caught 393 passes, averaging 16.5 yards per catch and 49 touchdown receptions. He carried the ball 90 times with Washington, scoring twice and averaging 4.5 yards per carry. In Cleveland, Mitchell ran the ball 423 times, scoring 16 touchdowns and averaging 5.4 yards per carry. Mitchell also was a standout returner, averaging 10.1 yards on punts and 26.4 yards on kickoffs for his career. He was named first-team All-Pro 3 times, and when he retired, Mitchell had the second most all-purpose yards in NFL history. Only one player had worn Mitchell's number since he retired after the 1968 season, tight end Leonard Stevens in 2002. Mitchell said after that season he was hurt that the team had reissued his number, though then Coach Steve Spurrier said it was simply an oversight and it was never given to another player. In the release about the jersey number retirement, Mitchell's wife, Gwen, said that Bobby would have been thrilled and humbled by this wonderful recognition. I would like to thank Dan Snyder and the entire Washington Redskins organization for this great honor. His daughter, Terry Mitchell, said, "This honor would have meant the world to him. He felt that the retirement of a jersey is the ultimate recognition of an athlete." Mitchell served as an assistant general manager with Washington until he retired after the 2002 season. Mitchell said at the time he was hurt that late owner Jack Kent Cooke had passed him over for the general manager's job 2 times in favor of Bobby Beathard and later Charlie Casserly. But Mitchell didn't let any disappointment overwhelm him. He also told the Post, after retiring, "I've always said I'm not going to walk away from this game bitter. I've been close, but I was determined not to let it get to me. I held up." The Redskins plan to hold a number retirement ceremony at a future home game. Earlier in the week, the Redskins held a series of town hall meetings on race led by members of the organization, including Senior Vice President of Player Development Doug Williams, a good friend of Mitchell's. A source said Mitchell's jersey retirement had been discussed before these meetings. Ron Rivera, the only minority head coach hired this offseason, announced last week that the Redskins also have started the Black Engagement Network, which focuses on mentoring, networking, and community outreach. Marshall remains in the Redskins' Ring of Fame with his name displayed inside the stadium along with other members of that group. The franchise's nickname also remains a source of controversy, on which discussion has been renewed in recent weeks amid a growing emphasis on racial matters. So there you have that story on Bobby Mitchell. How fitting that that story comes up on the weekend of Juneteenth, and the progress that the Redskins are making to address some of these issues.